It's time to bear.
Oh, take
Holy cow! Sound like the Undertaker, but what's cool and what's going on? Hope you guys are doing well. And we have the Chicago Bears at number 17. And with the Chicago Bears team, might be one of the most fun football teams to watch this year. And I know Bears fans keep saying, "Oh, well, we got, is this another year where we, try to live up to the hype?" I think this is actually the year. So we shall see. But they have so much young talent. The coaching staff is all new with Ben Johnson coming into town. I can't wait to see what happens here. Let's get into the roster. And with this offensive line, which has done a full 360 around the globe, it has transitioned into this new unit that you see right here, the tackle position. I rank 12th. And you start off with three-way competition with Braxton Jones, Karan Amagaji, Ozzie Trapillo, new incomer there, second-round pick from Boston College. And all these guys are whiz kids, man.
Your brain is a creative computer.
And they're all 4.0s. I don't know how you keep up with these dudes, but any which way, let the best man win. Your tackle situation, though, with Darnell Wright, you got one starter guaranteed at right tackle. Theo Benedict's been working in there too, been working, first and second team reps right now in training camp. So if they keep five tackles, I would suspect that those five end up making the roster. I do want to mention this real quick because I feel like Braxton Jones just gets a little hated on more than he should. So I always like to point this out in Bears videos just because I think Braxton Jones is way better than anyone he gets credit for. Yes, he does get pushed into the pocket one too many times. He still needs to get stronger, but his technique has come so far with his hands and his overall footwork. Like he has really improved. I've watched as much Braxton Jones as like one-on-one film as any offensive line in the NFL. I'm a really big fan. Yes, he's not an elite left tackle. I'll say that right now. He's not elite, but he's good. Yes, those type of guys like Dan Moore's, you see them get paid. And that's probably why the Bears are looking ahead to the future, like an Ozzie Trapillo, Karan Amagaji. They don't rule out Amagaji. I think this guy has the most upside out of any of these guys, to be real with you. His athletic tools and length and size are tremendous. So if he's continued to put on more strength profile in his year number two, he's a guy that, don't be shocked if they say, hey, Karan Amagaji is going to be the day one starter. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all. It really wouldn't. That guy's got a lot of potential. And especially with the broken leg that Braxton Jones is still recovering, rehabbing, and stuff like that. If he's not 100% ready to go, or if he doesn't win the job, then maybe they move on, they trade him, things like that. So those are all things we have to keep an eye out for with that left tackle position. Just want to point that out, though, and get my little throw out there with Braxton Jones. We'll see how it all works out. The interior, though, when you look at this interior, it's been all reworked. All new starters: Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson. It's a group that has so much potential to be one of the best in the NFL if they stay healthy and be a cohesive unit. Maybe by week 5, they get that chemistry together. Guard, I rank it 4th. Center, I rank it 5. It comes down to who is the depth here. What is the depth? Okay, who is going to be that third, that fourth man? And that's my problem with this offensive line right now because Ryan Bates has dealt with his own injuries, and I don't know if he's going to be able to make the roster because of those injuries. So that thing and that question is definitely a big concern. I like Luke Newman a lot. I'm a big Luke Newman fan. I liked his tape a ton at Holy Cross. He played left tackle there, moved to left guard for the Michigan State Spartans, and I thought he was good there too. Especially go check out the Michigan State or the Michigan game where he faced the steepest competition in Kenny Grant and Mason Graham. I thought he did a good job. He lost a couple of reps to Mason Graham and then one to Kenny Grant, but overall, I thought he held his own and is a guy that has a lot of athletic upside and stronger than you would think too. He just does he lacks the length profile and the size maybe that you would want from a guard or something, but he's another dude that could play center for this team. And if he's able to play center, that really would solidify his position as somebody who makes the football team. Speaking of which, who do I think will end up making the roster? Because there's probably only two spots here on the interior that are up for grabs. And my guess, Luke Newman, and then you're gonna have competition with Bill Murray. If Ryan Bates is healthy, then I would imagine you pencil him in as one of those spots. And then you got Doug Kramer, Jordan McFadden's an interesting one. I think McFadden hits a practice squad and they could put him up depending on injuries and stuff like that. McFadden could be like a 6 offensive lineman, Dan Skipper type for them. That's something that's kind of my envision. That's my guess on how it ends up working out. But there's a lot of interesting storylines to follow in this interior of the offensive line, and will definitely be what I'm watching besides the left tackle competition battle for this team. And then on to the wide receiving position, which looks really good. I rank it at 13. This could easily be a top 10 unit, especially if Rome Odunze takes that next leap heading into year number 2. Luther Burden, right now, just in training camp, coming along with the mental aspects I hear, where to line up and position and all those sort of things. He'll get it as the season goes along. Burden, Odunze, and more. That is a lethal combination. And yeah, they didn't get one of their running backs in the second round. I imagine they were targeting one of those guys. But hey, I mean, you can get a wide receiver that plays running back as well. They went BPA. I totally respect it. Their offense is looking insane with Bird and Adunze and more going in the future, all locked under contract for like the next 3 seasons at least. So yes, this wide receiving core looks phenomenal. And yeah, hey, let's not forget about Omlad Sagias, who looked solid last season. And a guy coming over and playing, figures he going to be the starter in at the slot. And you got Devin Duvernay going to be their main special team return man, I would figure, unless they want to save a roster spot, which they could, and they're going to have Luther Burden do that. It's just going to depend on how much they want to put on Luther Burden's plate as a rookie, but he certainly could be a good special team return man for them if they wanted to open up a roster spot with Devin Duvernay. Tyler Scott and Miles Boykin, those two guys to me are going to be competing for another roster spot at their receiver position. And maybe they only keep 5 receivers too. That's a possibility. They could keep 6. I think it's between 5 or 6 for this football team because hey, their starting core is phenomenal. So they don't need to keep 6 or 7, in my opinion. 6 would be the maximum that I really figure they would need to keep. And Maurice Alexander could be a special team guy. He's another dude that they could bring up off the practice squad when they needed him to. And then some other guys, JP Richardson, watch out, maybe a practice squad candidate, Samari Toure, etc. So wide receiver, though, I think looks really good. And then looking at the tight end position, which I have ranked 11th, looks really good. You got first round pick Colston Loveland. I think he'll be able to hit the ground running and be an immediate impact for this football team. And then you got incumbent starter Cole Kmet back here for the Bears, Durham Smythe, and Joel Wilson. I think will be competing for that other spot. Unless they want to keep 4 tight ends, which they could. However, this is another area where I think that they could just rock with 3 tight ends. It just comes down to how many 2 tight end sets they're going to really want to run this season. And then you got Murray and Carlson going to be vying for practice squad spots, and maybe one of those guys. I'd say Carlson might have the edge there to be a practice squad candidate that could come up for injuries and whatnot. Smythe, Wilson, very interested to see how that works, because Smythe can also do special teams. So how will Joel Wilson look on special teams in preseason? That's going to be the key for him, because if he looks good, then I've heard a ton of praise on him with Ben Johnson and stuff like that with Joel Wilson, and that can be a little bit of coach speak. However, sometimes it's legit. And if he shows up on special teams, they might say, you know what, well, let's go with Joel Wilson, a little more upside, a little more athleticism to get open and stuff. If we want to use him as a receiver, not just as a blocker or special team man, then they could go that route. Either which way, I mean, this is a tight end room that looks really, really good, and I think they're going to feature it heavily in this offense. And then we go on to the running back room, which is going to be a weakness for this team. I rank him at 32nd, is last in the NFL. I'm not like panic code red, like this is going to cause their demise this season. At the same time, it's definitely not going to be a strength of their football team. DeAndre Swift's okay, and he's solid. He can get the job done, as we've seen throughout his career, as long as he's healthy and everything like that. And he's got familiar with Ben Johnson, so that's good. He'll be able to hit the ground running in the scheme. You got Roshan Johnson. I want to see a little bit more out of him, be more than just maybe a goal line back. And you got Kamanunga. I like him a ton out of Rutgers. He's a little undersized and whatnot. I think maybe fumbling could be a bit more of an issue pronounced in the NFL. Overall, like I think they've got a really good group of 3 guys right there. And then you're going to have competition for that 4th running back spot if they want to keep 4 running backs, which I would suspect they would. Travis Homer gives you good special teams ability, could be a good 3rd down back. Ian Wheeler, of course, a great story there. And I would love to see what he can do if he could end up making the roster for them. Deion Hankins, maybe a practice squad candidate there for this football team. But Wheeler, Homer, to me, is going to be that big competition for that 4th running back position. On to the quarterback talk here, and Caleb Williams. Let's first start off with what I want to see out of Caleb Williams this season. First and foremost, the most important thing that I want to see from Caleb Williams is speeding up the processor. And I've said this with Caleb Williams. He reminds me of Kyler Murray in his rookie season. Kyler looked slow. He just didn't, it's like when he was reading in a haze. He had like a haze over his eyes that he just couldn't see. It's almost like he had 20/60 vision. That's really what I see with Caleb Williams. All the talent's there. I don't deny any of that. But he's got to get better at reading the field, being more decisive, because the sack number, while yes, the offensive line was bad last season, it was also on Caleb Williams. And I am more of a firm believer that quarterbacks and sacks, quarterback is more of an offensive line tribute to that sack number than the offensive line. There's always, ambiguity there, and it depends. Okay. I want to say that depending on the scheme and things like that, there's a lot of things that go into it, but I do think that sacks are a little bit of a quarterback stat. So with this next season, I want to see him be more decisive, get the ball out of time, take a lot fewer sacks, and get better throwing the ball deep. Okay, that was a big problem. It just seemed like the deep accuracy at USC comparing to this season for the Bears was night and day difference. So if he can improve the deep accuracy and the overall decision making, or like getting the ball out of the processing, getting the ball out on time, and getting out of that haze, then he's a guy that I think could take that elevation just like Kyler Murray did in his year number 2, and I fully expect him to do that. So I'm not worried about Caleb Williams. This second year, though, will be pivotal, okay? I wanna see him really improve those areas of his game. Tyson Bagent, to me, should end up being the backup, but Case Keenum could end up beating him out for that role. If they want more of an experienced clipboard guy, he does have a little bit of guarantees too on the contract, so that's something to watch out for. Maybe they decide to go that route with more of the experience behind there with Caleb Williams, and maybe they keep 3 quarterbacks. That's a possibility too. So Keenum, Bagent, those 2 guys could end up being their backups. If they only keep one, then you have stiff competition between Bagent and Keenum. On to the defense side of the ball here and the defensive line. I rank the edge room at number 30 and the interior defense line at 19. The edge room, while it's not bad, it's just a little bit. You're coming off a down season with Montez Sweat. Deo Dangbo has proven himself for the Indianapolis Colts. He's coming off 1 year of really full production, and he looked good. Now that he is in a starting role, we shall see how he looks for a full season, and really getting more of a lead role here is going to be very, very curious to see with Deo Dangbo. A lot of upside, though. I mean, the dude's got really good athleticism and crazy size. Exactly what Dennis Allen is looking for. Like, he is the Dennis Allen mold, big, physical, and athletic. And then you look at Austin Booker, also big, physical, and athletic. He's got real potential. I think Austin Booker, certainly super young player too. I think he's like younger than most of their entire draft class. So for like Colston Loveland. You got Tony Tagonin Capasigonin. Sorry, it's the name I'm butchering this. Oh, sometimes, but he comes in with experience with Dennis Allen. We'll see if he makes the roster. I'll be very curious. I think if they want to keep that vet role in here, then that would make sense. You got Dominique Robinson, Daniel Hardy going to be competing there. Xavier Carlton, I think, would be my best guess, UDFA wise, who could end up making the roster. Daniel Hardy has some good special teams ability, so he could beat out Robinson. I could see that happening if they want to keep 5 edge rushers, which would be my guess here for this football team. Overall, their edge room definitely gotta improve it here, and we'll see how much pressure they can get. I fully expect Dennis Allen to bring a lot of blitzes. We'll talk about more of that with the linebackers and the DBs. You get into the interior, which I rank at 19. You got Grady Jarrett coming over here. Is he prime Grady Jarrett? No. I do think he can have a good season though, and still be a big presence. Like, teams have to acknowledge Grady Jarrett still and understand who you're going against. You got Gervon Dexter, who stepped up, had a big season last year, and continues to get better. You got Andrew Billings getting healthy is going to be huge. Andrew Billings, just like I mentioned with Braxton Jones earlier, I think Andrew Billings is one of the most underrated interior defense linemen. He's kind of like Grover Stewart, and hopefully Billings starts to get more recognition. It sucks because he was injured. However, Billings is a monster in the middle. He just makes everybody easier, and I don't have any stats maybe to prove it, but like if you just watch the games with Billings for when he's in there versus when he's not, I just feel like it's a totally different football team. And it's the same way I feel with Grover Stewart. So yeah, Billings is a dog, man. He is a dog. Just hopefully he's ready to go, healthy, and all those sort of things. And then they added a dog, personality-wise, with Shamar Turner. Like, he fits that old school Bear vibe. Like, if you want to get hyped for anybody as a Bears fan, watch out for Shamar Turner. He fits that freaking Punisher mentality. Yeah, he's got to get better with his hands and his technique, but he's a dude who could play a little edge as well. And on the interior, he's going to be a madman. Chris Williams, Zach Piggins, Jonathan Ford are going to be competing for that 5th spot. If they want to keep 5, which I think they'd keep 5 here. Chris Williams maybe has the upper hand right now as the pass rusher. Zach Piggins probably on the way out. I think he's more than likely on the way out. Jonathan Ford and Williams, those 2 guys, I think have really the upper hand to keep that roster spot. If they want to go with a little more youth, Jonathan Ford, who's got a little bit more versatile skill set, who can be a little bit better of a run blocker. Williams more of a better pass rusher. So it just kind of have to depend on what they want to do, what they want to keep. And the interior in general, though, looks pretty good. I rank it at 19th as mentioned, and I think there's a lot of potential into the future with Dexter and Turner. Moving on to the linebackers now, and you got TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds. This will be a huge year for Tremaine Edmonds. Obviously, these 2 linebackers, this whole room could look different after this next season. So just keep an eye out on that, depending on how these guys play. Tremaine Edmonds with Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen's done a really good job with linebackers throughout his career. So obviously, with his experience and know-how with linebackers, it makes sense. I am very curious how he's going to use Edmonds. I'm guessing he's going to use him a lot as a blitzer this season. So fully expect Edmonds to have like career high numbers and pressures and sacks this year. And then you look at the rest of this room. Who's going to be the main backup here? Obviously, you got Omen O, who's going to be their main special teamer. You got Ruben Hippolyte, who they drafted, and he's got tremendous athleticism, tremendous blitzer, chase down guy, which once again fits that attacking, physical, athletic style that Dennis Allen is looking for. So I totally get why they drafted him. And then there's going to be interesting competition here. If I had to guess, Noah Sewell probably makes the rosters like the Sam. But Boozman, definitely an option to watch out. E. Cole's definitely another dude as well. Could be a UDFA guy that could make the roster. I think they'll keep 5 linebackers though here. So it comes down to Sewell, Boozman, Equals, and Jones Jr., who ends up beating each other out for that last position in that last spot. In general, they're going to get aggressive with this linebacking core this year. And that's the same thing to be said about this DB room. They're going to be blitzing guys like Kyler Gordon. He will be used as a joker, I would guess, for Dennis Allen in this scheme. And they're going to try to get him in some favorable matchups, favorable roles, whether it's playing at safety, playing in the slot, playing out wide in base formations, which Dennis Allen plays with a lot of dime packages. So Kyler Gordon's going to be moved around everywhere, I'm guessing. Now, the rest of this room, you got Jalen Johnson, the number one corner. He's going to be their beast on the outside. You got Tyreek Stevenson, a perfect scheme fit, right? When you look at Matt Eberflus and you look at Tyreek's skill set, it's not really his game. He's not really the off zone coverage guy. He's more of your in your face press man guy. He did get beat at times at Miami, right? And he still gets beat. That's his biggest, like, he takes risks. And while sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't. So Stevenson has a lot more variance in his game. However, he's a really talented corner. So if he can iron some of those things out, his best football is still ahead of him. Zoff Frazier, unfortunately, right now is dealing with some personal issues. I haven't been disclosed exactly what's going on, so hopefully everything's okay with him, and it'll be really good to see him at training camp and or in the preseason. You got Terrell Smith, may not be a scheme fit for this defense, right? He's the exact opposite of Tyreek Stevenson. He's more of the instinctual zone coverage, playmaking type of guy, right? When it comes to that sort of thing, he's really smart, reading zone coverage, reading the eyes of quarterbacks and stuff like that. So Terrell Smith may not be the perfect scheme fit. He's also not the most physical, right? Where Stevens is a lot more physical. And that's why I think Nashawn Wright may end up beating out Terrell Smith. Maybe they trade Terrell Smith come before the, final cuts, because he definitely, I think somebody would trade for him. He's a good football player and he's shown that, really good flashes when he's been down on the field. So watch out for a trade potentially. Or maybe they could transition him to safety. Maybe that's something too. He's another guy that in the dime packages they could really use like that. So maybe they'll get creative with Terrell Smith. And Kyler Gordon, to be fair, Kyler Gordon isn't the greatest in man coverage. I feel like he's more of a zone guy. He's really instinctual, great at reading the eyes of quarterbacks and just making plays, as a blitzer, in the flats and stuff like that. So they're gonna get creative, as I mentioned, with these roles. You got Josh Blackwell, who figures to be the main slot backup. So really, I'm looking at this as Frazier, and then you're gonna have competition between Smith and Wright for making a roster spot, and then Blackwell, I think, would end up being their slot backup there. And obviously, you got your top three there. I mean, Stevenson, there's no guarantee. Okay, if things don't go right, if the discipline isn't there for the new coaching staff, then they can move on from him. So I'm not saying he's locked in, but I'm hearing Nashawn Wright's getting a ton of good reviews. Been getting first team reps right now too. Let's go on to the safety room, which I rank at 15. This is a safety room that is going to depend on Jaquan Brisker and his health this season. At the same time, I still think they're okay. Elijah Hicks played decent enough, and it's like they can get the job done. Kevin Byard's a beast. He's going to play a lot of deep safety for them. So Hicks, Owens, their special teams ace. He can play in situational roles down in the box and things like that. A good run defender. It just comes down to if they want to keep more than that. Would I guess they're going to keep 5? Maybe Alex Cook ends up being, winning a roster. Major Burns, Speed, Johnson. We'll keep an eye on some of those guys. It's a safety room. Maybe it isn't an elite or anything. I don't think it's going to be a strength of this football team, but they should be able to get the job done, barring major injuries. I just can't wait to see Jaquan Brisker. And Dennis Allen's said nothing but great things because he wanted to draft him, and they wanted to draft him in New Orleans, and then the Bears, where they traded up in front of him to get him. So there's that. Just got to, the concussion thing's huge, unfortunately. And then with this coaching staff here, I ranked 23rd. This is a coaching staff that has so much upside together, and it's one of the youngest coaching staff too, I would imagine, in the NFL. Ben Johnson, when he's like 38, Daquan Doyle's 28, and then Dennis Allen's not old either. So it's like this coaching staff, if they grow together, this could be a really fun room for the next 20 years for the Chicago Bears team, and I'm sure that would be amazing. And Bears saying, please, we shall see. It's too early, right? You got so much inexperience out here. Yes, Dennis Allen has head coaching experience. Ben Johnson, first year head coach. Daquan Doyle, first year OC, making the play calls. All those things goes into it. He's got the background now with Sean Payton, and he worked with Dennis Allen in his first season in 2022. So, they know each other and everything like that. So my record prediction for the Chicago Bears, I have them going 8-9. It's going to be a fun season. That's all I can say. This could be a team that could easily win 11, 12 games. It's a tough division. They're too good of a roster to be like a 5-win team in my eyes. At the same time, there's just so much inexperience. So we'll see how it all goes, how much they get going right away. Let me know what you think. Agree or disagree, Bears. Bears down, though. Hope you guys have a good day.